Evening, ladies and gentlemen, members, officers, honorary aldermen and any members of the public viewing at home this evening to the council meeting. Please be seated. There is no fire drill planned for this evening. If a fire alarm sounds, please make your way from the chamber using either the fire exit to my right or via the stairwell that leads off of the lobby outside the chamber. Ms Willis, may we please have any apologies for our absence?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've received apologies from Councillor Julie Hode, Councillor Emma Jane McGrath, Councillor Sashi Marvaganam, Councillor Liz Noble, Councillor John Skipper and Councillor Josh Shawn, and some are joining virtually but won't be able to vote.
Thank you, Ms Willis. Moving to agenda item 2, I propose that the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 17th of May and 28th of June be approved as a correct record. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. Is that all agreed, members? Agreed. Item 3, declaration of interest. Do any members have any declarable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests to declare in relation to the matters which are to be considered at this meeting? No? Agenda item 4. I am advised that... Sorry. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It just really relates. I'm not quite sure, and I probably should have taken advice from the monitoring officer, but do any of us that drive electric cars need to declare some form of interest in relation to the motion of Councillor Wilson later on?
I am told that there is no declaration to be made. That's fine. Thank you. Item 4. I am advised that no questions have been received from members of the public under Council Procedure Rule 10. Item 5. My announcements. So you'll have to excuse a minute. It's a sign of age, I think.
Give you my glasses.
It's when you can't find them, it's a problem. It's been a very busy 2 months with 25 engagements. That was more than in the whole of my mayoral year 2021. The year began with sporting the fish and chip shop at Lightwater, which was then followed by climate change and a coffee morning at one of the local care homes, which was quite amusing, as bearing in mind it was a care home. And they said, there's belly dancing in the courtyard. And I thought, what are they doing with ballet? It wasn't ballet dancing, it was belly dancing. So they really thought outside the box. And I must say, the residents thoroughly enjoyed it. They were literally rolling about laughing. That was, I think there was 2 got involved that shouldn't have done, but it was a very enjoyable afternoon. And congratulations to the Windlesham Field Remembrance Committee for organising yet another great day for the village and raising much needed funds for the upkeep of their field. And thank you to the village of Windlesham for their loyal support. This was followed by the Rushmore Artistic Swimming in Aldershot. What an evening. The dedication and skill that was shown by the children, and especially the young ones, was amazing. And then back to Aldershot again, for the Rotary Club, who put on an excellent free day for all the less able children of the surrounding boroughs. And it was all the fun at the fair, and it really was. It was a marvellous thing. Although I embarrassed myself because I couldn't break the china. The kids were doing it, but I couldn't. So obviously I'm not a very good shot. Then we had Beat the Retreat, Armed Forces Day, with all the local cadets there from all the services and others, all crying out for volunteers. Scram at Chessington, that's a scouting event where there's several local children who had each raised £3,000 to go to North Korea to the International Jamboree. And they were saying it was only 44 days to go. And they were really thrilled that they'd raised this money and they were going to go out and enjoy it. The Camberley Rock Choir provided an evening entertainment, and it was encouraging to see that the rock choirs now carry signers so that people who have got hearing impairment can follow. The Rushmore Male Voice Choir, the Pelly Goes International Orchestra, opera at Frimley, opening the new B&M, anniversary of the 25th year of the U3A. That was something I didn't know very much about, but well worth looking at. A fun in the evening at the Alzheimer's Cafe up in the Old Dean with the Reverend Chris, who is always great fun. And then something more serious, the inspection and parade at Gordon School. What a marvellous school that is. And I was greatly honoured to be invited to the annual celebration of the Nepalese veterans. The only thing was, I couldn't stay to the end because I was committed elsewhere, but I saw one or two of our councillors there enjoying themselves and dancing. It was a great day. I just regret that I wasn't able to stay to the end. So a wide and varied list of events. Going around I haven't listed them all. We'd be here till I don't know what time. Going around the borough, one is made aware of the number of volunteers out there, supporting all sorts of clubs and organisations, but more volunteers are needed. So if anyone has a few hours to spare, think of volunteering. It's a very worthwhile pastime. The final event we had yesterday, and thanks to Helen Essen, who was absolutely marvellous, we had 40 Taiwanese students here. Some of the questions, I'm afraid, were above me, but we had a good afternoon, and they all thought that English women are gorgeous, our houses are wonderful, and how do we manage to pick up all our litter? Now, we always hear this about lots of litter, but they were very impressed that we don't have a lot of litter. So that's what I've been doing, and thank you. Agenda number 5. Members, it is with sadness that I inform you that former councillor Dave Allen recently died. David was a councillor between 2011 and 2019, firstly representing Frimley Green and then Frimley Ward in his second term. He chaired the Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee in 2015-16, having been vice chairman the previous year. Some of us knew David very well, and he was a good friend and a good councillor, and we were sorry when he went. On behalf of the council, I send condolence to his family. Agenda item 6. I'd like to invite Leader Councillor Sean McDonald to make his announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone, especially members of the public joining us. I want to cover 3 areas in tonight's announcements, starting with the transition to a more open and inclusive council. Firstly, you will have noticed that we have moved questions from the public so that it is higher up the council's agenda. I also intend to bring a proposal to the Governance Working Group next month to introduce for the first time public questions at all committees. These are just small steps to making the council's business progressively more open and transparent to our residents. Following recent consultation, the council will immediately move to the use of gender-neutral terms in all written and verbal communications. This is to demonstrate that we are all equal and to avoid word choices which may be interpreted as biased, discriminatory, or demeaning by implying that one sex or gender is the norm, helping to support the UN goal for the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls by 2030 in our local communities. Subject to the support of cross-party colleagues, I hope to bring back, where required for approval, further reform proposals to make the council more effective and inclusive at the next full council meeting on the 25th of October. Moving on to recent achievements by the council team. As a new council with change ambitions and with the next 4 years ahead of us, it's important that we secured early momentum. And that is why we developed a specific short-term plan to focus us through to the end of the year, which was approved by the executive last week. I'm pleased to report that in the first few weeks of this council, we have already delivered quite a few items on our plan, as seen in recent press announcements, and the remainder are on track at this point. Clearly, as a new council, we can't claim all the credit for these early successes. So I want to go on the record in thanking the officers, the previous administration, and various cross-party working groups for all their hard work in the development of these ideas to make things better for local residents and businesses. Highlighting one specific recent event, the council completed a rigorous and independent local government association corporate peer challenge this month, for the first time in almost 9 years. The initial feedback recognises the positive improvement journey that the council has been on under the Chief Executive, Damien Roberts, and his senior leadership team, whilst also identifying areas for development, including the need to embed net zero thinking into decision-making, strengthen the way the council approaches risk, and making the approach to project management more consistent. Whilst we wait for the detailed report, I want to make a personal commitment that we will publish a report of the final report on our website and commit to tackling their recommendations through a detailed action plan that we will ask the executive to formally approve for transparency. Lastly, current challenges and look ahead. You will have seen on the news that more and more councils across the country are finding themselves in financial trouble, often with spiralling debts and spending that is out of control, including last month, Woking and Guildford. Grant Thornton, our new external auditors, said in late 2022 that 1 in 6 councils could potentially run out of money during this financial year. While Surrey Heath is not facing an immediate crisis, we do need to take financial challenges very seriously, which is why we are focusing on 3 things in our short-term plan. Making the council's finances more transparent, which includes publishing all the outstanding accounts over the next few months. Delivering £500,000 of in-year savings, identified and signed off at this month's executive. And ensuring the council's properties are being properly managed with a commercial mindset. The simple fact is, that we've inherited a budget that commits us to spend £3.8 million a year more than we receive in income. With additional cost pressures already this year due to inflation inflamed by Vladimir Putin and supercharged by Liz Truss and her Conservative colleagues, resulting in terribly high interest rates for residents, the council's current spending levels are clearly not sustainable. That is why between now and the annual budget plan meeting in February, we will focus on the medium-term financial plan, which will need to deliver more income, increased efficiency, as well as what we do, whilst protecting critical resident services and the great quality of life in Surrey Heath, which we are all accountable for. On a more positive note, colleagues will know that the borough has a long association with this country's armed forces, including strong links with the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst and the satellite barracks and training facilities nearby. It is also home to ex-military veterans, including many from the Nepalese community, linked to the distinguished Gurkha regiments and soldiers previously based at Fleet. I'm immensely proud that this council has both elected members and staff who have served, as have some of my close family, by air, sea and land. Although the council did sign up to the original Community Forces Covenant in 2011, unfortunately this has now lapsed. I therefore want to announce today my intention to bring a report to the executive in September proposing that the Council signs up to the new Armed Forces Commandant. Under the leadership of our Armed Forces champion and Army veteran herself, Councillor Leanne McIntyre. And I look forward to support from across the Chamber for this commitment. Just a couple of other points to close. School holidays are now on us, and the Council has launched its Summer of Fun campaign, promoting the many things on offer in the borough that are affordable for families, including visiting one of our 4 recently award-winning green flag parks. Welcome to the new Communications Manager, Joe Whitfield, and thank you to Sarah Burkett-Weedies, who has done a sterling job covering, especially overseeing the campaign promoting voter ID. Communications will be critical to build further engagement with our residents and local businesses, so I look forward to working with Joe. It's great to see that we are hosting 7 young people as interns over these coming weeks, providing valuable practical work experience for those still in or just coming out of full-time education. I wish them good luck with this first step into the world of work. Lastly, I want to recognise publicly that 3 council staff have recently reached their 10-year service milestones, and one of our apprentices achieved a level 3 distinction in their studies. Thank you for your service and well done. Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to agenda item 7, executive committees and other bodies. Executive minutes and recommendations. Please can I remind you that the recommendation at minute 21E was a recommendation from an exempt item. If you do wish to discuss this in more detail, please indicate this and we will defer consideration to the end of the meeting when we can exclude the press and public. Can I have a proposer for the executive minutes and the recommendation to council from the meeting on the 18th of July at minute 21/E as set out on the agenda paper?
I propose that the minutes of the executive of the 18th of April, 30th of May, 20th of June and 18th of July 2023 be received and the recommendation at minute 21E approved.
Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like a second.
Are you happy to receive these minutes and to agree the recommendation? Thank you. Can I have a proposer for the Planning Application Committee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose the minutes of the Planning Applications Committee's meetings of the 20th of April, 1st of June and 29th of June be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betton. Do I have a second? Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second those minutes for the 20th of April, 1st and 29th of June.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Audit and Standards Committee, can I have a proposer for the Audit and Standards Committee minutes, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to propose that the minutes of the Audit and Standards Committee meetings of the 17th of April and the 11th of July be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Do you have a seconder? Thank you. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? External Partnership Select Committee. Can I have a proposer for the External Partnership Select Committee minutes from the 6th of June 2023?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you, Morgan. Yes, Mayor. Happy to propose the External Partnership Select Committee meeting minutes from the 2nd of June, 6th of June.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I second that.
Thank you. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Licensing Committee, can I have a proposer for the Licensing Committee minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of the Licensing Committee held on the 14th of June 1923. Sorry, 2023. I'm just wishing my life back for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor White. Do you have a seconder?
Yes, Mayor, happy to second.
Thank you. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee. Can I have a proposer for the Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to, it's obviously in the tongue. Wow. Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee meeting for the 12th of July 2023.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, councillor Garrett. Do you have a seconder?
Yes, Mayor, I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kang. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Employment Committee. Can I have a proposer for the Employment Committee minutes?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to propose the minutes of the Employment Committee, which took place on the 13th of July. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Whitcroft. Do you have a seconder?
Happy to second, Mayor.
Thank you. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Joint Staff Consultative Group. Can I have a proposer for the notes of the Joint Staff Consultative Group?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to propose the notes of the Joint Staff Consultative Group held on the 15th of June 2023.
Thank you, councillor White. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are you happy to receive these notes? Members, you will see that our two motions have been received for this evening's meeting. I will take them in order. They are included in the agenda. Motion 1. I would like to ask Councillor Jonathan Quinn to move his motion. Councillor Quinn, I will invite you to speak on the motion once it has been seconded.
Once that's been seconded?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to propose the motion and
Yes.
I reserve my right
Yeah.
to speak.
Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second the motion and I reserve my right to speak.
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I start my speech, I'd like to welcome the Chair of the Youth Council, Dylan, for joining us in the chamber today. I hope if members stay around after the council meeting, they can speak to Dylan if they want to know more about what the Youth Council does. I've brought this motion to council to help secure support for the representation of young people in our borough. Sadly, the Icon charity ceased to support the Surrey Heath Youth Council on the 20th of July, and as a result, the Youth Council will no longer operate at the start of the next school year unless new support and funding can be found. The Surrey Heath Youth Council has been a vital platform for young voices, ideas and aspirations in a time that otherwise brings many uncertainties for young people. From 2015 to 2018, I had the privilege of being a member of the Youth Council, an experience that profoundly shaped my understanding of community, responsibility and leadership. It was through this that I discovered the impact that youth can have on the decisions that shape our borough. Without that experience, I very much doubt I would be standing here as an actual Surrey Heath councillor today. The Youth Council is more than just an extracurricular activity. It is an incubator for fresh ideas and a symbol of our commitment to inclusivity and representation in the borough. It nurtures civic engagement, installs a sense of ownership in Surrey Heath, and empowers young individuals. Successes of the Youth Council include their long-running anti-stigma training days in local schools, their fundraising for food banks, and their historic campaign to deliver improvements to Crabtree Skate Park, which was very successful. I firmly believe that we should do our best to preserve the Youth Council and even take it a step further by establishing a ceremonial young mayor position. This would provide a bridge between the Youth Council and the full council, fostering collaboration and ensuring that youth perspectives will be taken into account during our own decision-making processes. I hope that councillors from all parts of the chamber will be prepared to support this motion and eagerly wait news on the future of the Youth Council and establishing the ceremonial young mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased to second this motion, and I was very pleased when Councillor Quinn asked me to second it. Like Councillor Quinn, I also was a member of the Youth Council in my early teen years, and I have fond memories of the engagement and the opportunities that it provided me, especially even having meetings in this very chamber, and I believe in this very same chair that I sit in now. So I was a bit prophetic, perhaps, of that membership. I agree with Councillor Quinn that the Youth Council is an important institution in Surrey Heath. As Councillor Quinn said, it's an incubator of new ideas, but I believe it's also the potential breeding ground for future councillors and future leaders of our community and our community champions. And I was very disappointed to see ICON withdraw their support and funding of the Youth Council. I'm in full support of the motion as laid before the Chamber today, and I also want to welcome Dylan to the Chamber today. It's very good to see young people engaging with the political process. As Councillor Quinn and others I'm sure will say, engaging young people in our community is essential if we are to hear their views. Too often young people are either ignored or passed over because they don't have the right to vote yet. What I would say is to provide the opportunities for young people to directly feed into the discourse of their local community is just as important as any other resident. So I'm very pleased to second this motion, and I hope all members of this chamber will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. I'd like to invite members to discuss the motion and make any comments. Councillor Lisa Finnan-Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak briefly in support of this motion, so I won't keep you too long. Surrey Heath Youth Council is, I believe, an incredibly important part of our community. Many years ago, I was a member of the National Youth Council of Ireland, and I represented a non-political youth organisation, and I always deemed myself to be apolitical, and yet here I am. In my role, I had some great opportunities, which included being a delegate at the European Youth Parliament. And as that young person that I was, I also became involved in political lobbying and cross-border initiatives between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And it was those experiences that ignited a love of politics and instilled in me my belief, which I hold to this day, that meaningful inclusion of young people is absolutely key to securing a prosperous future for us all. Having pored over the most recent report from Surrey Heath Youth Council, I know that it plays a crucial role in amplifying the voices of young people in Surrey Heath and inspiring them to contribute to their community. Surrey Heath Youth Council has made really valuable contributions this year. For example, they produced a video for young people explaining the cost of living crisis and what it might mean for them. They fundraised for food banks, as previously mentioned, and they created a series of social media posts about mental health in young people. Young people who are involved in the Youth Council have said, "We work on local projects based on positively impacting young people. Surrey Heath Youth Council offers fun socialising with the positive feeling of impacting the community. I socialise with other members and work on projects. My favourite project so far has been the mental health project. I joined Surrey Heath Youth Council because I wanted to make a change in my community." I'm pleased to say that as a council, we're committed to exploring options to secure the future of Surrey Heath Youth Council and provide support in engaging with potential funders and potential youth work providers. I know that at least 2 of our elected councillors here this evening were members of the Youth Council, and I believe that this proves that Surrey Heath Youth Council plays a critical role in encouraging leaders of the future, and as such I would urge members to support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett. And then Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was too disappointed to hear that ICON have decided not to fund this worthy organisation moving forward. And from my understanding, the grant funding has dropped straight away, which means at the beginning of the new academic year, there will be no youth council. I've stood in this chamber for many, many years, well, not many years, a few years now, and unfortunately the wheels of councils don't ever move very quickly. In this particular instance, if this motion gets passed tonight, I would propose that we need to move quickly to try and help with the funding of this. ICON, I know from experience, seem to be withdrawing their funding from lots of areas. So I note that the idea is for the leader to, and chief exec to arrange a meeting with ICON. I would love to hear that they're going to carry on funding it, but I would suspect that's not going to be the case. So, and obviously there's a cost implication of this, and that obviously shouldn't stop it, but obviously we've had the conversation about budgets, etc., etc. So we need to find the funding. In my opinion, if this gets through, we need to find the funding for this. It's something we need to support. And certainly from my side, it will be something we will support, but we do need to look at speeding it through and getting things done quickly to try and support this organisation. Thank you.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hadn't planned on saying anything, but as a past governor of junior school and senior schools in and out of the borough, I've been involved in school councils, and this youth council seems to be a natural progression on from that, and it would be a shame to lose it, so I'm fully in support of the proposal.
Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayor. I also hadn't intended to speak. It seems to me that we've got a bit of gap in time. So we've got between July and October, when potentially the Youth Council will basically cease to exist. And it's a bit of an open question to the leader and also to the chief executive of the council as to whether or not there are any funding options that are available to us to bridge a gap whilst we potentially bring together a working party to look at how we can fund that, both through advertising for funds for local businesses within Surrey Heath to support that as a project, and also potentially for us to look at some of the grant options that are available to support young people within Surrey Heath. It's much more difficult to get something started than it is to maintain momentum. And therefore, I think that if there is anything that can be done with this council to bridge the gap in the meantime, to give short-term funding whilst a longer-term option is discovered, that we should look at a way of trying to get that arranged this evening, almost without delay, if at all possible.
Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I also had not intended to speak, but I am. I feel passionately about developing young people. I've spent a lot of time doing that and trying to enable that. So I think we are in violent agreement across the chamber that we need to try and find some way to make this work. You wouldn't expect me to make policy on the hoof, and I'm not going to, but you can have my commitment that myself and the chief executive and the team will look seriously at what we can do and as quickly as possible in line with the sentiment of the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
Victoria's already spoken. I don't think you do.
No. You need to make a motion?
No, you can ask Councillor Quinn if he would like to accept Councillor Wheeler's amendment to his motion, or whether he'd like to exercise his right to speak.
Councillor Quinn, would you like to accept the amendment?
Can I use my right of reply? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would like to say yes. While this could be amended to sort out short-term funding, I am reassured by the discussions that I've had with members of the executive and the administration at this council. And at the moment, I don't feel that this motion does need an amendment, and I feel we should approve it unamended.
Thank you. So we will put the motion to the vote as it stands. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion 2. I would like to ask Councillor Johnny Cope to move his motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move my motion as set out in item 9 of the agenda, and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, councillor Cope. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to second it, and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like I'm sure all other members here in this chamber, a key reason for wanting to be elected to this body was to stand up for residents on issues that matter to them and to give them a voice. I believe that it is absolutely critical that as a council we set out our stance on issues affecting our residents, whether they're caused by decisions made here in this chamber or elsewhere. The expansion of ULEZ to outer London boroughs is such an issue. It will add further costs for residents and businesses in Surrey Heath at a time when budgets are already under great pressure. It will disproportionately affect those on lower incomes, including key workers and others who need to commute into London. I spoke recently with a builder locally to me, and he told me that he will either have to stop taking jobs in southwest London or pass on the additional cost of ULEZ to his consumers, making his business less viable. He has a diesel van. It's not ULEZ compliant, and he can't afford to replace it at the current time. He's done nothing wrong, but due to the Mayor of London's needless and ill-thought-out expansion, he will be penalised. Many Surrey Heath residents, myself included, have parents or families who live in outer London. They rely on their cars to be able to visit their loved ones. I'm lucky, my car is ULEZ compliant, but many in our borough face an additional tax just for visiting their loved ones. As a council, we must be unequivocal. This is unjust, it is wrong, and it will penalise our residents on lower incomes. Now, I know there will be some members sitting here who are thinking, but improving air quality is so important, or that we need to support environmental policies. And I agree hugely with both of those statements. But the evidence shows us that ULEZ expansion has only a negligible benefit when compared to the strain it will put on budgets. Don't take my word for that. An Imperial College London paper entitled "Has the Ultra-Low Emission Zone in London Improved Air Quality?" concluded, and I quote, ULEZ on its own was not effective in the sense that the marginal effects caused by ULEZ on improving air quality were small, either at particular locations or when averaged across London. ULEZ expansion will not improve air quality in any material way. Indeed, the Mayor of London's own integrated impact assessment on ULEZ states, and again I quote, the proposed scheme is estimated to have a minor to negligible beneficial impact on exposure to air pollution and achieving World Health Organization interim targets across Greater London. ULEZ expansion will simply not have the health or environmental benefits that are claimed. So why is the Mayor of London doing this? Let us be clear. This is about raising money to balance his budgets. As a council, we must send a message. It is not for Surrey Heath residents to pay an additional tax for the privilege of visiting their families or going to work just so the Mayor of London can have his numbers add up. Now, there is an argument put forward sometimes that those affected by the expansion should use public transport. They should get a train, they should get a bus. However, for some people, that just isn't a realistic option. As an example, it takes me just over an hour to drive to my parents' house in North Croydon. Door to door by public transport, that takes 2.5 hours. These types of journey are common for residents in our borough, and that will not change overnight. Some members may be sitting here, and I've got some sympathy with this view, saying, well, that's all well and good, but what's a motion passed in Surrey Heath Borough Council chamber going to do? Is it going to have an impact? And the honest answer is, I don't know. The Mayor of London is the only person with the power to stop this injustice. But I believe it is vital that this council joins other councils across Surrey, adds its voice, and stands up for its residents by sending a message to the Mayor of London that what he is proposing is completely unacceptable. I believe that Surrey Heath residents expect us to take this stance. And I hope that residents across the chamber will stand up for residents in their ward who are affected by this and support this motion unamended. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cope. Councillor Garrett, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am happy to second the proposal that holds immense significance for our community and the well-being of Surrey Heath Borough. As a united council, we have a responsibility to safeguard the interests of our residents and ensure that their voices are heard at all levels of government. Today, we have the opportunity to make a difference by supporting the leader of Surrey Heath Borough Council in writing a letter to the Mayor of London opposing the extension of the ULEZ boundary of Greater London. Let me be clear, we are not against the noble intentions of reducing air pollution and improving air quality within London. These are crucial goals that we all must strive to achieve for the sake of future generations. However, the proposed extensions of the ULEZ boundary has far-reaching consequences that will impact not just Londoners, but also our constituents in Surrey Heath. Our borough, nestled on the outskirts of Greater London, comprises of a vibrant community that relies on access to London for various purposes, be it for work, education or leisure. The extension of the ULEZ boundary may inadvertently burden our residents and businesses with additional costs and logistical challenges. Many of them already comply with existing emission standards and have invested heavily in cleaner technologies to meet environmental regulations. Moreover, this extension could negatively impact our local community economy. Businesses in our borough, particularly those in the transportation and logistics sector, may have higher operation costs due to the need for compliance with the ULEZ regulations while conducting their operations within the capital city. This is, in turn, could lead to a decrease in job opportunities and overall economic growth. Instead of extending the ULEZ boundary, we urge the Mayor of London to focus on alternative measures that promote sustainable transportation choices and incentivise the adoption of cleaner technologies without penalising our residents and local businesses. By engaging in open dialogue with neighbouring boroughs like ours, we can collectively work towards a more comprehensive and inclusive plan to tackle air pollution in the region. As the seconder to this proposal, I call upon each council member to stand in unity and support the leader of Surrey Heath Borough Council in drafting his letter to the Mayor of London. Let us be the voice of reason and collaboration, ensuring that our concerns are heard and that we contribute constructively to the creation of effective region-wide solutions for cleaner air and greener future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. I would like to invite members to discuss the motion and make any comments. Councillor Benton.
Thank you, Mayor. I must say, when I read this motion in the papers that came out, I was shocked. Not surprised, but shocked. What we're talking about here are matters of life and death to people. The history of air quality development is a long one. I remember in 1957 going to school, yes, it was that long ago, and for 4 days I couldn't go to school because there was a smog. And when the smog cleared, Blackheath was covered in cars and buses, people who had got lost and found themselves on grass. The World Health Organization has worked long and hard with people from Imperial College, people from Sheffield University, people from the School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine to develop air quality standards that have changed over time. From 2005 to 2021, they have changed significantly, but they have changed in relation to the need and the data that are available. For example, in 2005, sulfur dioxide limit was 20 ppm. It is now 40 ppm. It's gone up. Other things have gone down. The UK government has been active in the development of air quality standards. The largest environmental risk to public health is the government's statement. The annual mortality of human-made air pollution in the UK is roughly equivalent to between 28,000 and 36,000 deaths every year. The total cost to the NHS and social care system is £1.6 billion per year. We have a low emission zone. We've had a low emission zone for lorries for a long time. We developed, or somebody has developed, not we, the ultra low emission zone for central London. Originally, thanks to Mr. Johnson, it was based on the congestion charge zone. It then expanded to within the north and south circular roads. I used to live on the south circular road in that house there. It's where the south circular road and the A20 cross, more or less. Ella Kiss Deborah, aged 9, living in Lewisham, where I was born, living within 30 metres of the South Circular Road, as I did, died of acute respiratory failure due to her asthma and air pollution, according to the coroner and according to the High Court. The World Health Organization limits are set to protect the health of children with existing respiratory disease. It didn't protect her. She died. She lived within 30 metres of that line, as did I. So the expansion to the whole of the Greater London area is something which is sensible, justified, and necessary. This motion, I'm afraid to say, is not surprising, given recent events, by-elections and so on. It's a political weaponisation of health of our nation. I urge you, every one of you, with any sense of integrity and responsibility, to vote against this motion. It's obscene, it's grubby, and it's politically motivated. Anyone with an ounce of decency will turn it down. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Betty. Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to corroborate on what Councillor Beaton was saying. We've got a resolution before us which condemns a legitimate attempt by the leader of the Greater London Council, an attempt to limit pollution from older motor vehicles. Bear in mind, this only involves petrol-driven cars of 15 years of age. So it's a limited group we're talking about. And diesel-driven vehicles of 7 years. So it's a very small, heavily polluting group that are causing this problem. Bear in mind what's been achieved by the GLC in the inner London area. And of course, there was the same sort of criticisms that arose at that time. But then people are now living with that and putting the importance, as Councillor Beaton was saying, on people's health above the alacrity of being able to use these types of cars. An almost 50% reduction has been achieved in nitrogen oxide pollution in central London. So that's a real achievement. And here we have some facts about it being even worse, this pollution, in the outer London area. And this is what is a legitimate attempt to do something about it. Obviously, I understand the discussions are going on about how it's going to be implemented. One only has to be listening to the news at the moment about the crisis the world is in. I'm amazed that the Conservative group here are putting a reactionary policy to try and reverse against the facts we're seeing the crisis in the world at the moment. It's pretty disgusting. Evidence from the local outer London on the World Health Organization states that outer London suburbs have toxic pollution from motor vehicles in excess of all safe measures that have been given to them. Outer London has a higher level of death-related illnesses related to pollution, as Councillor Beaton was saying. So obviously some work has to be done on this. Obviously we're in new uncharted territory. And obviously the whole situation is being debated. But let's not attempt to torpedo a legitimate attempt before it's even got underway. I have every sympathy with people having to travel into the area. I don't think that's a rational point to stop the very great dangers involved in allowing these levels of pollution to continue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. Any other speakers? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to propose the amendment that has been laid before the Council in my name and reserve my right to speak, if it pleases you.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Wilson?
I would like to second Councillor Mayor, I'd like to second Councillor Wilson's amendment, and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, councillors, in February 2013, 9-year-old Ella Kissy Deborah from South London died, in the words of the coroner, of asthma contributed to by exposure to excessive air pollution. Air pollution is now a public health emergency. Nitrogen dioxide and particles polluting the air were blamed for Ella's death and stunt the lungs of children across London and the South East today. Toxic air is a risk to everyone, but particularly to the young and the old. Mayor, councillors, the world is on fire. Climate change is causing devastation already. Wildfires, floods, crop failures, the mass movement of people forced from their homes. It is accelerating and almost beyond our ability to slow down or mitigate. We face the twin emergencies of air pollution and climate change. We have already delayed our response to these emergencies too long. Fortunately, we know how to deal with them. We must reduce our carbon emissions and reach net zero as quickly as possible. Politicians who tell you we do not have to confront this challenge now are not being honest with you. The most polluting vehicles must be taken off the road or their owners asked to pay for the damage they cause. Children are literally dying from the pollution created by their vehicles. This would be necessary regardless of the political allegiance of the Mayor of London. ULEZ was, after all, instituted by a Conservative Mayor, Boris Johnson, and its expansion was enabled, indeed demanded, by a Conservative Transport Secretary as part of the deal with the current Labour Mayor. However, it is also important to guard against the deepening of current economic hardships by a heavy-handed expansion of ULEZ during a cost of living crisis. It is for this reason that my amendment requests that a fully funded scrappage scheme be put in place for Surrey's commuters into London before the expansion occurs. I agree with Councillor Cope's sentiment about poor provision of public transport options for our residents to travel into London. I hope he, in turn, will back my amendment and urge local and national government to work together to address this. At my request, the Council's new mobile air quality measuring station will be visiting Windlesham for 2 to 3 weeks soon. We need to protect our residents and remember 9-year-old Ella. Will 2023 be known in history as the year Britain decided not to tackle the climate emergency? Will certain politicians persuade us to take the easy route, to ease off and leave it to the next generation to deal with these problems of our making? We have a responsibility to act now on air pollution and the climate emergency. I commend the amendment in my name to the Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. So, would you like to speak? Sorry if I got you in. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
It's okay. Mayor, fellow councillors, I'm sure we all agree that we want to breathe clean air, and achieving cleaner, breathable air was one of the main reasons that Boris Johnson introduced ULEZ to the centre of London. I think this is one of the few things that he did right. It was designed to benefit the health of Londoners by reducing dangerous particulates in the air, and thereby reducing the incidence as mentioned before, of lung conditions and chronic asthma. And it has worked. Toxic air pollution in central London has been reduced. Despite this progress, the whole of London still exceeds the World Health Organization's guidelines for air quality, and over 50% of deaths attributable to air pollution are in outer London. I think we can all agree that this is unacceptable. So, there is a strong public health case to be made for the expansion of ULEZ. But the ULEZ expansion must be implemented in a way that doesn't inflict financial harm on the people it's designed to protect. I think that there are three main issues that need to be addressed. The speed at which the ULEZ expansion is being initiated, the poor state of public transport in Surrey and from Surrey into West London, and the lack of financial support given by both the Mayor of London and the Department of Transport for a comprehensive scrappage scheme, one that supports residents within and nearby to the expanded ULEZ zone. It is for these reasons that I am seconding Councillor Wilson's amendment to the original motion. The challenges of ULEZ are not the sole responsibility of the Mayor of London, and Councillor Wilson's motion recognises the interconnected responsibilities of the London Mayor, the National Government and Surrey County Council. It is only by recognising these shared responsibilities and by encouraging productive cooperation between these branches of government that we are likely to see real progress that places the interests of residents first, offering them a properly funded scrappage scheme and a substantial improvement in public transport. In conclusion, I find myself unable to support the wording used in the original motion, as I feel that the language used was in places unnecessarily emotive, and I do not think ULEZ should be stopped. I do, however, hope that a unanimous message can be sent from this chamber to the London Mayor, the Government, Surrey County Council and our MP, making clear the concerns of Surrey Heath residents and signalling a practical pathway for meaningful action. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cope, would you like to speak? Do you accept the amendment?
No, I don't. And can I explain why? I'm not sure on the process here.
No.
You have to open up to other speakers.
No. Is there anybody else like to speak on this motion?
Do I get a right of reply?
You do get a reply. Councillor Wheeler and then Councillor White.
Thank you. I can honestly say that during the pre-election period, I couldn't imagine a time when I would ever agree with anything that was said by Councillor Wilson. I'm therefore very surprised to find myself in a position whereby I'm actually supporting his amendment. It's a very emotive subject. A councillor that spoke earlier talked about the 1.6 billion cost to the NHS of dealing with pollution. That, to some extent, is offset by the £26.2 billion worth of revenue that comes about as a result of charges on diesel. There is no doubt whatsoever that pollution is not in a right place. However, we are emerging as a country from a long period of difficulty following a number of challenges, not least the fact that we're coming out of COVID. One of my colleagues used the example of the builder with the van. It is the small businesses and those businesses that are just about breaking even that will bring us out of the economic position that we are in now into a position, hopefully, of prosperity. It's roughly £51,000 for the most basic electric van that one can buy, with a cost of £1,100 per month in repayments, if you're able to put down a deposit. So I feel that those proposals and the comments that have been made earlier about the speed at which this is wanting to be rolled out by the Mayor of London simply isn't sustainable or doable for all of the reasons that are actually laid out in Councillor Wilson's amendment. And so therefore, I find myself in the very surprising situation of agreeing with councillor Wilson and supporting his amendment to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Wheeler. Councillor White.
I would just like to say that up until about 10-15 minutes ago, I was erring on the side of supporting the amendment. But when the Conservative group and Conservative councillors, for all intents and purposes, are called grubby, I take offence, and I would like that comment withdrawn.
Thank you, councillor White. Any other speakers? Councillor Cope, you'd like to reply?
Thank you. I would. I just want some clarity on how this process works in terms of the amendment. Is it voted on irrespective of what I say, and then the amended motion would also be voted on as well?
We start by voting on the amended motion and see what, and then if needs be, we vote on follow yours.
So if the amended motion goes, so the amended motion gets voted on first, and if that goes through, that's what it is.
Comes the new motion, yes. Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still new to this, so just a bit of clarity. Thank you. First, I want to thank councillors for most of the contributions made. I agree that it is an emotive subject. I completely accept a lot of the comments that have been made around the importance of air quality. What I would say is that I don't think any of those comments actually really evidence that ULEZ was going to improve air quality. I referenced to publications from, pretty important journals and bodies which suggested that the impact would be minimal. But I totally take on board the views of those who want to improve air quality. And then just turning in terms, just briefly on the amendment. First, I do want to say a big thank you to Councillor Wilson and Councillor Rise, who gave me sight of this amendment in advance. I know they didn't have to do that. I think it's a really good way of facilitating good debate and doing business, and I hope it's something that members on all sides can continue to do. But I do want to just pause briefly on the nature of what an amendment is. I think anyone, irrespective of their views on the subject matter here, will say that this is just a deletion of an original motion and replacing it with something the leadership feel comfortable with. I'd ask members on all sides to consider when voting whether they think it's appropriate for a motion to be rewritten in such a fundamental way. If it can happen to the motion put forward tonight, it can happen to any motion members wish to put forward over the next 4 years that the council's leadership find too uncomfortable to take a vote on. I want to address briefly a few points I think are not ideal about the revised motion. Firstly, it calls for a delay to ULEZ expansion. Now, this isn't really what those affected want. People have spoken about recent political events. We've seen that ULEZ in Outer London is very unpopular. My family's from Outer London. I've got lots of friends in Outer London. They don't want ULEZ stopped, and neither do our residents here. They don't want an expansion next year, they don't want an expansion in 5 years, and they don't want an expansion in 10 years. The negative impacts will remain the same, and the benefits of the expansion will remain minimal. Secondly, the amendment prefers that it hopes people find a less polluting way to travel. I'm not sure that if you're forced into a 2-hour plus long journey on multiple buses and trains just to see your family, that hopes are going to be much comfort. And thirdly, it talks about a fully funded scrappage scheme, which would be great improvement on what's currently on offer, but who would it be funded by? As touched upon in my opening remarks, for the Mayor of London, this is a revenue raiser. I therefore do not see it as likely that this will come from his budget. Is it going to come from our budget? Who is going to fund this? I think this revised motion has some noble aims, but I think parts of it haven't been thought through. However, reading the room, I think it's important that we do send a message to the Mayor that his current approach is unsustainable and unfair to Surrey Heath residents. And therefore, in the interests of showing a united front, I am willing to accept the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Cope.
acceptance of the amendment, it now becomes a substantive motion.
Oh, sorry, councillor Rise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just rising on a point of clarity. I just want to reassure Councillor Cope that the amendment as presented is fully in line with the Constitution's provisions, and I know exactly how Councillor Cope feels because I've had this done to me, and unfortunately I didn't have sight of a massive amendment coming before me, which is why I made sure that we did get that motion, the amendment, over to Councillor Cope with advance notice. I also want to just make a point with regards to a scrappage scheme. Throughout the country, there has been other expansions of ULEZ schemes, and that, for example, has been funded for by the UK government. That is what I would expect to be done here outside of Greater London. And I would also point that, I just wanted to make that point and also just reassure members that the motion, the amendment was accepted as an order.
Thank you, Councillor Rise. Councillor Cope has accepted the amendment, and so the amendment is a substantive motion, and that is what we're going to vote on. Is everybody clear?
You can just check that anybody else who wants to speak on the new substantive motion.
Does anybody want to speak on the new substantive motion? No. Hmm? No. No, he's gone.
Oh, okay. So put this to the vote then.
So we'll put the amended amendment, which is now the new substantive motion, to the vote. All those in favour?
That's carried. Yeah, it's carried.
Excuse me,
Councillor White?
I would just like it noted that I am abstaining and not voting against.
Okay. Anybody else want to register an abstention or against? No. It's noted, Councillor White. We move down to question 1. Councillor Jonathan Quinn, would you like to read out your question?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a question to Councillor Morgan Rise, the Net Zero Wellbeing and Environment Portfolio Holder. As the portfolio holder is aware, there's been an offensive smell from the Camberley sewage works. It's caused substantial interference with residents' enjoyment of their homes and their gardens in both St Michael's and Watchet's wards. Despite promises from Thames Water that a temporary odour control unit would resolve the problem while repairs are ongoing, the smell has been persistent and disruptive. What further steps is the Council taking, and has the Council considered using its statutory powers under the Environmental Protection Act to resolve the issue? Thank you.
Councillor Rise, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I give my answer, I want to commend the ward councillors of Watchet's and St Michael's for their campaigning work on this and their assistance to me as well. The Council has written to Thames Water using its statutory powers under the statutory nuisance provisions of the Environmental Protection Act 1990. If Council officers are satisfied that odour constituting a statutory nuisance exists or is likely to occur or reoccur, it must serve an abatement notice under the Act upon the person or company responsible. Authority to serve an abatement notice has been delegated to the borough's environmental health practitioners. Thames Water has a best practical means of defence against any abatement notice. For example, they can seek to prove that even if nuisance does exist, it is unavoidable having regard to current technology and or costs. It is acknowledged that it is not known whether Thames Water would contest any abatement notice, but it is noted that they have done so elsewhere through the full legal process. Whilst the Council is keen to resolve this issue for residents as soon as possible, the Council does not have unfettered discretion to require works by Thames Water, and we can only require them to take appropriate steps to mitigate any impact as far as it is practicable to do so. The Council's environmental health practitioners are currently undertaking their investigations to determine if statutory nuisance exists and determine if Thames Water are employing best practicable means to reduce any impact as far as it is practicable to do so. We have met with Thames Water, and the following mitigation measures are being implemented to reduce odours as far as it is practicable to do so, including odour suppression, misting system operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At my request, officers convened a meeting with Thames Water, which was attended by myself and the ward councillors for Watchetts and St Michael's. We affirmed that Thames Water must resolve the horrific odours that residents are experiencing, and the main outcomes from that meeting were: we assured that processing of the sludge would commence yesterday and would take no more than 4 weeks. A site visit for councillors was agreed by the end of next week at the latest. An additional odour control unit would be considered to further nullify the odour. This was a last-ditch attempt option for the treatment of sludge due to unplanned outages elsewhere in Thames Water's treatment infrastructure. Assurances were given this wouldn't be a regular occurrence. A further meeting would be convened to determine the cause of the seasonal odour issues experienced by residents. Officers will continue to monitor and engage with Thames Water in relation to ongoing odour issues, and Thames Water acknowledged their communications with residents had been poor and will be improved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rise. Councillor Quinn, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the portfolio holder for that very good response. However, I'm not assured that Thames Water, about their reassurances that they'll deal with this problem or that it won't reoccur. There have been national news that they've underinvested in their sewage plants nationwide. And so I'm concerned that they'll bring excess sewage from other plants to Camberley more often if their other plants suffer frequent outages. So can the portfolio holder reassure me that the council will use its full legal powers should the issue persist or should it happen again? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn. Councillor Rise.
Thank you, Mayor. What I can confirm is that officers are currently exploring legal options in response to the current odours. I share his concern with regards to the reassurance that Thames Water have provided, and environmental health practitioners within Surrey Heath Borough Council will be monitoring Thames Water and the Camberley Sewage Works over the next 4 weeks. And we, as I mentioned in my earlier answer, we have a site visit due by the end of next week, where we'll be able to put further questions to Thames Water's management, regional management there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rise, and thank you, Councillor Quinn, for your question. Question 2. Councillor Rowlands, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is addressed to Councillor Ashbury, and in response to the recent announcement by South West Trains about the likely closure of their ticket offices in Surrey Heath, what steps are being taken to ensure that every resident of the borough has access to public transport and no resident, especially those with disabilities, is excluded by difficulty of buying a train ticket or travelling?
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. I'm advised that the Sustainable Transport and Planning portfolio holder will respond to your question. Councillor Ashbury.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council is, of course, concerned about any changes that may impact on the lives of Surrey Heath residents, including our disabled residents. I also share the view that no resident, especially disabled residents, should be excluded from using the rail service due to difficulties purchasing a ticket. First of all, can I be clear that while the Council is responsible for a wide range of local services, it does not run the rail service. That is ultimately the responsibility of Network Rail. I am, however, aware that the proposals from South Western Railway relate to the way they sell tickets at their stations and forms part of their plans to modernise the railway and bring it more in line with changing customer behaviour and expectations. I understand that the rail service has already been seen significantly reduced usage of physical ticket
purchases as customers move to alternative, more convenient ways of buying tickets. For example, they quote that more than 3/4 of passenger journeys are already made using electronic payment methods such as e-tickets and contactless, and that more than 99% of tickets can be purchased in this way. South Western Railway have also said they are transitioning to a new multi-skilled role for staff with a clear focus on having greater visibility at their stations in helping customers in a variety of ways, including ticket purchasing, journey planning, and more practical assistance for mobility impaired customers, all of which would not be possible when staff are sat behind a screen in a ticket office. I would hope that an increased visibility of staff on the platforms would actually enhance the overall experience of rail travel for disabled passengers, as they can have access to support for all aspects of their journey, not just in purchasing tickets. A more visible staff presence is also likely to contribute to a greater feeling of safety for those using stations, and is therefore likely to encourage more people to make use of the service. Most importantly, the train company have said they will continue to meet all of their commitments regarding accessibility for passengers, including passengers with reduced mobility and people requiring in-person assistance. If there is evidence that South Western Railway have failed to meet this commitment, the Council would make appropriate representations to the management of South Western Railways and the regulator. I can confirm that as I have recently been appointed to the Blackwater Valley Advisory Committee for Public Transport, I'm happy to ensure that these proposals are brought to the attention of the Chair for consideration. I would also like to take this opportunity to confirm that the consultation for the proposals that was due to end at midnight tonight has been extended until Friday the 1st of September. Any representations from members or residents should be made to either Transport Focus or London Travel Watch, the details of which can be found on the South Western Railways website. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Asprey. Councillor Rowlands, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Perhaps it's a logical doubt that one has about whether these promised officials at each of the stations will materialise over a long period and how they actually operate. Going back to 2008, this council was discussing the use of railways as an alternative to getting traffic off the road. And one of the factors of a station is that people can go into a station for advice about their means of travel. And as our resolution indicated, it's an important part of facilitating the travel of the disabled. I've noticed that there seems to be increasing demand for use of public transport. People at the bus stop seem to be increasing, probably a factor of the economic difficulties the country is now experiencing. So one can see this is nothing but a backward step to having an easily accessible and effective rail service within the borough, possibly one that would enable public transport quite a lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. I'm not sure there was a question in there, but would you like to respond, Councillor Asprey?
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Rowlands. I wasn't sure about the question either, and I'm not sure that the statements related exactly to the consultation that's currently underway. Part of my portfolio going forward is to look at transport and sustainable transport across the borough, and that will involve working with the rail companies going forwards. And we'll await the outcome of the consultation. And as I said before, if they're not coming up to the commitments they have made in terms of accessibility, the council will challenge them and speak to the regulator. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Asprey, and thank you, Councillor Rowlands, for your question. Leaders' question time. I would now like to invite members to ask questions of the leader, Councillor Sean MacDonald, on issues relating to executive functions. Please be aware that there are 20 minutes is allocated to leaders' question time. As usual, so everyone can have a chance, I will try to ensure all members have had the opportunity to ask a first question before I invite you to ask a second question. So if you have more than one question, please can I ask that you prioritise a first question. Please also keep your introduction to your question as short as possible so we can hear as many questions as possible. Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like many people in the borough, when I received this document, I turned eagerly to it to find something about what a good proportion of the borough would be interested in. That's theatre, music, poetry, dance. And I looked through it and was unable to find any of it. Can I just ask the leader whether he is happy that something with the operation of the theatre, which costs us somewhere in the area of £500,000, fails to have any of the performing arts as part of the programme which it offers?
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. Leader.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowlands. The programme is currently based on trying to incorporate as many opportunities for the creative arts as possible. Unfortunately, some events cost more than others to put on, and also are not so well supported by the public. I think it's fair to say that we have a dedicated team there that's trying to work as effectively as possible to bring in as much variety as possible. But we do need to look at other options to consider it, and I will take it away and come back to you with a fuller response in 5 working days.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I love what's in here, but that's just my own personal opinion. And Panto's coming up, so looking forward to Panto.
No, it's not.
Oh, yes, it is. So we've had some really serious conversations in the room today, so I'm going to go back to a councillor favourite, dog poo. Bins, dog poo bins, rubbish bins. There's a particular bin in my ward that seems to be either on a black map somewhere within Surrey Heath, that every time it doesn't get emptied, and it's reported on a number of occasions, and it still doesn't get emptied. The residents report it, doesn't get emptied. I report it, and suddenly, and I've got to say, the officers are brilliant. Okay, it's not against the officers at Surrey Heath, because as soon as you get them involved, it gets emptied. I think we need to maybe be having a conversation with our contractors, because every time I get told this particular bin, I'm more than happy to give you the what 3 words of where it is. It just gets missed every single time, and it's right next to an Amy bin. So it's a JWS bin next to an Amy bin. The Amy bin is missed as well. So it's on a black map. But I get told it hasn't been mapped. I'm really sorry. And the next email is, when I report it again, it's not been mapped. I'm really sorry. So. And that's not the only one. I've had a few, and I'm pretty sure that'll probably be the case across the borough. So I'm not expecting you to have the answer now, but I will happily give you the information. It's just an ongoing issue with having to report bins and them not being emptied until we get involved. And I'll happily feed that, but I don't know if that's something you've got feedback from other wards on. Thank you.
Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you. I'm going to refer this to Councillor Rice to respond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Garrett. It's one of my perennial problems that I have within my portfolio at the moment. I can actually report that the bin, I remember seeing your Facebook post about it, and I did actually ask JWS about it, and it's a Glendale bin, and it's next to an Amy bin, and I think and as far as I've been told, it has been mapped, but I think there is a problem in terms of which contractor thinks they're responsible. And I think neither think they're responsible as of the locations. I have raised it to JWS. This is not an issue located just to what, as you will know. It's an issue that's across nearly every ward that is a problem. What I am working with officers is completing the mapping of all the bins, ensuring that they've all been stickered with the stickers with the QR codes, and I will take it back in terms of the responses to residents compared to the responses to members, because I agree that if a resident reports it, there should be the exact level of response given to us than it is given to residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyes. Any further questions? No? So, as we have no further questions, that concludes the business of the meeting, and I would like to thank you everyone for attending.